Hello everyone, Professor Thompson here. I just wanted to take a minute this morning to send a short video to address a couple things about Unit 1, including the upcoming presentation. So the unit number 1 that starts off our course is due 2 weeks from today. So everything within Unit 1 needs to be submitted by February 9th. Your video is submitted or due by 11:30 p.m. on February 9th, and that's because the electronic system, that's the latest deadline on a given day that the system would accept. All of the coursework within that, other than the video, is due by midnight on the 9th, so it would close out right after 11:59. As I mentioned in my last video, one of the best pieces of advice is don't wait. Get the stuff done. Make sure you're trying to load your video 2 days in advance of that deadline so that if you have technical difficulties or upload issues, you can take care of those. I don't want you frantically having technical problems on February 9th at 11 o'clock at night. I can't help you then. So make sure that you're planning ahead, you're preparing, you're working on your speeches, but most importantly, recording them early and submitting them early to avoid any tech issues. There are several of you who have blown through most of Unit 1. Congratulations. That's not the majority of you. Some of you are trickling along and completing little by little. That's great. Just make sure that you are actively progressing in unit number 1 so that everything is done for you as you get towards the 9th, the end of our unit. For your upcoming presentation, 2 of the most important chapters in the book that you'll be looking at are Chapter 9 and Chapter 10. Chapter 10 talks a lot about the organization of your message. It talks about elements of your introduction, elements of your conclusion. It talks about how that introduction should be set up. It talks about transitions. These are elements of your speech I will be looking for and are part of how you are evaluated or graded. One of the biggest things that happens when I look at the first speeches from students in an internet course is that I notice that there's a huge disconnect between what you were supposed to have read in Chapter 10 and what you actually deliver in the video that I'm watching. So make sure that as you write your speech isn't this one big story, or it's not this one big ramble. There is structure that needs to take place, and that structure is really talked about in Chapter 9, but more so Chapter 10. So pay close attention to that within Unit 1. Several of you have emailed me about your topics for the first speech. Quite frankly, I don't care what your topic is, and it's not that I don't care, it's just that you can give an informative speech on anything. I would prefer that you give an informative speech on a topic that you are familiar with and that you have personal credibility with. That's going to make your speech more interesting. It'll make the speech easier for you because you have that personal connection, investment into that topic. But I prefer those more personal topics that you're into. It is an informative speech. So the goal is to inform. Please do not try and persuade in any fashion that one thing is better than another, or that we should try something out, or that we should go somewhere. You're simply giving us new information. Now, there are several ways that you can do that. You can give me 3 types of something, or 3 ways in which something is successful, or you can give me 4 benefits of whatever it might be. Those are very stock structures. They're very kind of maybe topical in nature. You can choose to give some sort of chronological speech, whether it's about an event in history, a timeline of major battles of the Civil War. You can give me a chronological speech, a sequential speech of how to do something. Now, obviously, I wouldn't want you to do something as lame or as minor as how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, but that's an informative, chronological, and sequential stepped process that is telling me or informing me how to do something new. So the topics are limitless here. Choose something, go with it. I'm not real worried. Please do not stress about this speech. This is the first time that I will have seen any of you talk in front of people. So don't get overwhelmed with how critical I'm going to evaluate it. Just make sure you're doing it and you're working hard. I recommend that you practice the speech. This is a huge downfall for people in an internet class, is you don't have your faculty member there every day or every other day emphasizing that you need to practice. Remember that this is not a reading course, so you don't want to read your speech to your audience. You still need to deliver it to your audience as you would be expected to deliver it to an audience in a face-to-face class. Now, I got an email from one of you asking about, can you use notes? Can you use an outline in your speech? Yes. It talks about this on the requirement sheet. You could have some sort of paper or notes with you that you might use to reference during the speech to help you get through it. But again, it's not meant as a crutch for you to read to everybody. Your speeches, remember, are delivered or graded on both composition, on how well it's written, but also on delivery and how you communicate that to your audience that you have in front of you. Please do not forget that you have to include oral source citations in your speech. There's a handout that I've given you online on how to do that. In this first speech, you're supposed to have 2 pieces of research in your presentation. So again, this is where you might go to Time magazine or Sports Illustrated magazine or Better Homes and Garden. You might reference something written in a book or reference something that is on a website. So you might say, according to Jim Johnson from the New York Times, in a January 4th, 2012 article, blah, 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 right? I'm citing orally information that is going to support whatever it is I'm telling you. So make sure that you are not forgetting your oral source citations. Okay, so that's a couple things that you need to remember about the speech. I want to reemphasize one, and this is a very, 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 very important final element. Please do not forget that with your speech, you have to follow the IAI criteria. It is not negotiable. You must have 8 people present for your speech. I must be able to see those people prior to your presentation so that I can count them on your video. As you record your speech, it would be helpful for whoever is recording to position themselves at the back of the room so I can still see you as a speaker. I can still see how well you're delivering your speech, but I can also probably see the various people that are there in your audience. So that's important. The IAI or state requirements say you have to have the 8 people. You are responsible for gathering those 8 people, and that's a part of you being in a fully online class. The state of Illinois also says that you must submit an unedited video. So when you start recording your speech, from beginning to end, it's one video, and that's what you're submitting. There are directions on how you are supposed to submit your video in Blackboard, okay? You're going to notice that there's a tab on the left side that says Online Video Submission. You go into that tab to submit your video. But it's also, important that you're doing this ahead of time so that if you have issues, you can take care of them. Do not wait until the last day. The final state requirement says that you have to give your speech in a public place, meaning you can't give your speech in your house. You can't talk in front of a webcam like this. I don't care if it's a public park. I don't care if it's a public library. I don't care if it's a boardroom, conference room, courtroom, restaurant. You decide, but the state says that it can't be in your house. Again, those three things, not in your house, public place, unedited video, and has to be in front of 8 or more people who are 16 years of age, non-negotiable. They result in an automatic 0 or an F for the presentation. So it is in your best interest to make sure that you are abiding by those. Okay, if you have more questions or concerns, make sure you email me sooner rather than later. Everybody have a great day. Enjoy the upcoming weekend.